As Amma peered inside the kitchen, her blood turned to ice. There on the cutting board lay a human hand, wedding ring still glinting on its finger. Her hosts, the elegant couple who had welcomed them so warmly just hours ago, were preparing dinner. But their faces were shifting, twisting into something ancient and horrifying. Something that had been wearing human skin like a mask. The meat on the counter whimpered, and Amma realized with sickening clarity what, or rather who, they had been eating since they arrived. Beware, dear listener, for this may be a story that concerns you more than you think. This is a story of the dangers we all could face, staying in an unknown Airbnb. In a tiny apartment in Accra, Kwame and Amma sat on their worn couch, sharing a plate of wache. Despite their cramped living conditions, their love filled the space with warmth. One day, Kwame said, squeezing Amma's hand, we'll have a home big enough for all the children we dream of. Amma smiled, remembering their shared vision of 3 kids running around a beautiful house. But wishful thinking alone is never enough, so when Kwame landed an interview for a management position at Ghana's biggest tech firm in Kumasi, a job that would triple their income, it felt like their dreams were finally within reach. However, with a major conference in town, every hotel was booked. Kwame, look, Amma exclaimed one evening, her phone illuminating her excited face. An Airbnb in East Kumasi, pool, catered meals, entertainment center, and it's only 200 cedis a night. The price seemed too good to be true, but the reviews glowed with praise. They booked immediately, their hearts full of hope, as they journeyed into what they believed was their future. The house that greeted them was a colonial-style mansion with pristine white walls and sprawling verandas. Ancient masks lined the hallways, their elongated features reminiscent of forest spirits from childhood tales. Yet something about the windows, dark and watchful, made Amma shiver despite the warm afternoon. Their hosts, 4 elegant tenants, welcomed them warmly. Kosi, their apparent leader, had a charismatic smile that made everyone feel at ease, though his shadow seemed oddly tall against the walls. Sarah, with her musical laugh, immediately befriended Amma. The elderly Auntie Efua doted on them like family, entertaining them with folk stories, while the quiet, intense Daniel kept mostly to himself. That evening's dinner was extraordinary. The jollof rice had a unique flavor Amma couldn't place, and the meat was unlike anything she'd tasted before. When she complimented the food, Auntie Efua beamed. "Just wait until you try tomorrow's special dish," she said, exchanging glances with Kosi. In the candlelight, their shadows danced abnormally tall on the walls. Later by the pool, as Kwame held her close, Amma felt truly happy. The house was everything she expected, and seemed to be a glimpse into the future life they longed for. In the entertainment room, Sarah and Kosi joined them for games and stories, their laughter echoing through the grand house. But something caught her attention. In the corner of her eye, Amma thought she saw their features shift, but she dismissed it. "Tricks of the light," she mused. This was not their usual house, and things would seem different. She had no idea how dangerously true those words would be. The next morning, as Kwame prepared for his interview, something strange happened. In the bathroom mirror, Amma's reflection moved a fraction too late, its eyes holding hers with an alien intensity. When she blinked, her reflection smiled, though she wasn't smiling. "It's just nerves, my love," Kwame said, straightening his tie. He kissed her forehead softly, the way he had when they first made their promise years ago. "Remember what we said under that neem tree? Our love will conquer anything. I'll get this job. We'll buy our own nice house and have 3 beautiful babies." And with that, his familiar scent of coconut oil and cologne lingering as a comfort to her, he left. Alone in the vast house, Amma tried to distract herself in the entertainment room. Suddenly, the TV switched from her show to images that made her gasp. She and Kwame in a beautiful home playing with 3 children, their future exactly as they dreamed. The vision was mesmerizing, pulling at her soul. The loud horn of a passing car pulled Amma away from the screen's hypnotic pull. Her heart thundered as she walked the house to clear her head. The temperature seemed to drop with each step. Whispered conversations echoed through empty rooms, stopping whenever she drew near. "Looking for the kitchen, dear?" Auntie Efua appeared suddenly, making Amma jump. Something flickered across the old woman's face, like a mask slipping. But it was gone so quickly, Amma doubted her own eyes. In the shadows behind her, something tall and thin seemed to move. By afternoon, the house felt different. Corridors seemed longer. Doors weren't where she remembered. And there, through a half-open door, she glimpsed Daniel walking through a solid wall, his form rippling like water. It couldn't be real, she told herself. It couldn't be true. The ancient masks on the walls seemed to follow her movement, their elongated features more pronounced than before. As sunset painted the windows blood red, the sound of children crying drew her to the pool. The water was black as ink, and in its depths she thought she saw faces, so many faces, mouths open in silent screams. The doorbell rang and broke her rising panic. Kwame had returned, jubilant with news of getting the job. The house erupted in celebration. Kosi opened expensive champagne, Sarah played beautiful music, and Auntie Efua outdid herself with the feast, each dish coming out of the kitchen even more spectacular than the last. Yet something was wrong. The meat on Amma's plate seemed to pulse, and she could have sworn she heard it whimper. Excusing herself, Amma stumbled through corridors that twisted impossibly. The kitchen door stood ajar, golden light spilling out. Inside, her world shattered. A hand lay on the cutting board, a wedding ring still on its finger. Daniel and Auntie Efua were stood preparing the meat, human meat, their forms shifting between human and something terrible. Amma stifled a scream, heart pounding. She fled blindly. The masks on the walls seemed to turn their heads to watch her pass. The house had become a maze, each turn leading her deeper. A staircase appeared, descending into darkness. Muffled sounds came from below. She paused, but considering going back to what she had just seen in the kitchen, she pressed on and found herself in a basement that shouldn't exist. What she saw froze her blood. Dozens of people, former guests, stood in rows. Their eyes were hollow, bodies empty shells, moving only when the tenants pulled invisible strings. Some still wore business suits, others vacation clothes frozen in time from the moment they were trapped. And some, she could see, had their body parts removed. "You should not be here, Amma." Kosi's voice, no longer charismatic but ancient and hungry, came from behind her. His hand on her shoulder was cold as death, fingers unnaturally long. "But since you are, let me show you our full hospitality." He dragged her to the entertainment room. There sat Kwame, entranced before the TV, watching their perfect future play out while his real-life force drained away. The tenants surrounded them, their human facades melting away in terrifying transformation. Flesh rippled like water, limbs elongated impossibly, faces split to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. Their shadows stretched up the walls, merging with the darkness. "Such love, such dreams," Kosi hissed, his jaw unhinging to reveal a bottomless maw. "What are you?" a horrified Amma screamed. "We are the Sasabonsam. We are the vampires who lived in your ancestors' forests, but we've adapted to modern times. Why live in forests when we can live in such beautiful houses and attract such delicious pure lovers to devour?" Amma screamed Kwame's name, but he couldn't hear her. The Sasabonsam laughed as they closed in. Desperate, fearful, looking for any means of comfort and salvation, Amma began singing their song, the one from under the neem tree when they'd promised their love would conquer anything. When they'd chosen their future children's names, Kwabena, Efua, and Kwesi. The spell broke. Kwame snapped awake with a roar that shook the walls. The house itself seemed to scream in rage, the masks tearing themselves from walls, ancient wood cracking with malevolent life. "Run!" Kwame grabbed Amma's hand as the room warped around them. The Sasabonsam's beautiful faces split open completely, their true forms emerging, towering creatures of shadow and bone, their limbs like twisted branches reaching for the couple. They sprinted through corridors, the house transforming with each step. The floor rippled like water, trying to swallow their feet. The walls bled black ichor, and the air itself felt thick with malice. The door, Amma pointed at the main entrance, now warped and distant, but Sarah, no longer beautiful but a nightmare of teeth and shadow, burst through the floor between them and their escape. Her elongated arms whipped through the air like vines. "Stay!" she screeched, her voice like breaking glass. "Feed us your souls." Kwame grabbed an ancient mask from the floor, one of the few remaining, and thrust it at Sarah's face. She recoiled with an inhuman shriek, the mask's protective symbols burning her twisted flesh. They ran past her writhing form, but the house was fighting back harder. The walls began to calcify, turning to stone from the inside out. The transformation crept along the corridors like frost, trapping everything it touched. They could hear the screams of the hollow-eyed victims as they were entombed forever in the growing stone. The entrance was meters away when Kosi's true form, a massive shadow of hunger and hatred, materialized. His claws reached for Amma, but Kwame pushed her aside and outside, taking the blow meant for her. Amma tumbled across the threshold, shadow hands still holding on to Kwame. The calcification was spreading faster now, the stone transformation reaching for the doorway. "Hold on!" Amma pulled at Kwame's arms while the shadows tried to drag him back. The calcification crept closer to his feet. "Amma." Kwame's eyes met hers, filled with love and determination. He saw the stone creeping toward her own hands. If she held on, they'd both be trapped. "Remember the neem tree. Our love will conquer anything, even if we're apart." "No," Amma cried. "Live for both of us, my love." Kwame pulled his hands free of hers. The house claimed him with a sound like thunder, the calcification completed in an instant, the entire structure turning to stone before crumbling into dust. The collapse was deafening, yet somehow hollow, as if the ruins were swallowing themselves. When the dust settled, nothing remained. Not a single stone, not a splinter of wood. Just empty land where a mansion had stood moments before. Amma's screams brought neighbors running, but they found only a distraught woman clawing at empty earth. The police were skeptical of her story. A mansion? On this empty lot? There were no records, no building permits, not even a foundation. Their searches found nothing of Kwame. She tried everything. Private investigators shook their heads at satellite images showing only vacant land. The Airbnb listing had vanished completely, along with their booking confirmation. Even their payment had disappeared from their bank statement, as if the transaction had never happened. The only proof she had was her grief and the lingering scent of coconut oil and cologne on Kwame's tie, which she'd found in the dirt where the house had stood. Weeks turned to months. Amma moved back to their tiny apartment in Accra, surrounded by memories of their shared dreams. Sometimes, on quiet nights, she thought she heard children laughing, 3 distinct voices that could have been Kwabena, Efua, and Kwesi. Then one night, as she sat holding Kwame's tie, her phone buzzed. The Airbnb app showed a new review. "Dearest Amma, your love was exquisite. Kwame's dreams feed us still, and he whispers your name in his endless sleep. He's part of our family now. The Sasabonsam are patient, and we have such a special place waiting for you. After all, how can your children be born if their mother isn't here? Come back to us, Amma. Your family is waiting." In the dark heart of Kumasi, a beautiful house appears and vanishes like morning mist, ready to feed on more dreams of love and future happiness. Be careful, dear listener, lest you find yourself in this Airbnb and be hosted by the Sasabonsam. Have you ever booked a place that felt wrong? That made the hair on the back of your neck stand up the moment you walked in? What made you feel that something wasn't quite right? I read all your comments, and I'm dying to hear your stories. And if you're watching this alone in a vacation rental right now, maybe check that your reflection is still moving when you do. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales from African mythology. Click that notification bell so you never miss a story. See you in the next one. If the Sasabonsam don't find you first.